Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coach's Review. The coach today is Cap, the head coach of Timeless, and we're going to be looking at a match from the weekend where they obviously took on Spacestation Gaming. Unfortunately, did lose. We're actually going to look at one of the maps that maybe went a little bit better. Before we get into all that, though, Cap, thank you for joining me. I just wanted to ask you a few questions. When you went into this series against Spacestation Gaming, what was your sort of plan going in terms of the type of matchups you guys wanted to play or the ones you wanted to avoid?
Well, the plan was a little bit kind of just wing it. With the perks, we didn't really know how much the meta was going to change going into this week. And even before then, like everybody had kind of been playing lots of different comps and scrims, just kind of trying to be flexible just in case, nobody knew anything of what was going to happen. And we didn't really get any info on what they were playing that whole week. So I assumed they were going to be playing something Ana. We were like, we play a lot of ball comps. We were just trying to force most of the maps where we can play like the ball divey matchups outside of like the really hard dive matchups. And I think Espa is like the one map where we really get to force that play style. Nepal should have too, but it was kind of ended up with some unfortunate circumstances.
And then with the perks as well, because obviously that was like the big news from this weekend. All the regions playing with perks for the first time. You had probably maybe like 2 or 3 days scrims before starting the tournament started again. How have you found using perks and having perks involved in the game from like a coach's perspective? How much has it changed your job or what you need to worry about?
I don't think it's changed coaching that much particularly. I think it's something that is more on the players individually to like kind of figure out, at least for now. Maybe in the future it'll change, like if there's any changes to perks or more, or like as it becomes more figured out, it might be something. But at least as of right now, it's kind of just something the players figure out what they like. The most that I've done with it is kind of look at what some of the best players are picking and why people are picking different things, and kind of see, like with Sojourn, that was one of them that we initially were picking the different perks. And then as we watched some of the Korean games, we realized that the ammo reload is way stronger than we thought it was. The sticky E is situationally really good, like in hazard mirrors and stuff. And so I kind of just find certain situations things might be good, but other than that, it's mostly the players feel and pick the right things. But.
Yeah, it feels like maybe there was some sentiment going into the weekend where everyone was like, it's a completely new game, everything will change. But it feels like for the most part, all the heroes still play the way they normally do. The way you play a Hazard is still how you play a Hazard. How you play Genji is still how you play a Genji. They just have like a few extra things they can do in like certain situations now.
Yeah, I mean, most of them, I actually think they're pretty well designed because of that. Like, if they had significantly changed the playstyle of a hero, it would have gotten weird. I think the way they did it, where it's just kind of like buffs to specific parts of a hero, is a good way to do it. Like, it just rewards staying on the same hero, which I think is nice in a game like this. And it also rewards, the team that does better, players that do more damage. You can get rewarded for that, which I think is a good thing. But.
Yeah, got to see a lot of cool, unique plays as well that we didn't. Brand new stuff. I want to get your take as well on the bans. You talked a little bit about getting the matchup you wanted, really, on Esperanca. Obviously, it was your map choice as well. You guys banned Winston, and then they banned Sombra in response here. So what was the thinking behind that ban?
Well, the monkey ban, the first 2 maps, going into it, we were trying to force like the ball matchup with a little bit of the Malga matchup on Servasa as much as possible. And I knew they were going to play Ana, but I didn't think they were going to play monkey. I thought they were either going to try to play ball, or maybe they were going to play some like the Ram comp. Like Nightmare's been playing a lot of Ram. And I assumed they had been scrimming that team also in preparation for Liquid. They had been scrimming that team also just because they couldn't scrim us. But
yeah.
I didn't predict the monkey, and on maps 1 and 2, it was a really big problem. Like even Servasa, especially, them being able to win the monkey into Malga matchup, which I feel like it's a pretty hard matchup. If we couldn't win that map, I felt like we weren't going to be able to adapt to it during the series. So it was something going into the map. We really felt like we just don't want to deal with this right now. It'll be easier to play our game if we don't have to try to adapt to that style. We can just deal with the Ana individually, and it would be fine. And it did end up being fine on that map. So.
I guess as well, especially then when you see the Sombra ban come in afterwards, they kind of show their hand almost before they even go into the map in terms of
exactly
expecting some kind of ball. Do you change anything when you saw that Sombra ban, or was that just part of what you expected anyway?
We kind of expected them to ban Torb, like we keep stats on what they ban, and they do that a lot. But it wasn't that surprising. I think if they can't play Monkey, I think they really want to avoid Hazard. They really want to avoid Diva. So I think it makes a lot of sense from their perspective. And I don't think there's anywhere else they would use a Sombra ban. So it was kind of just like a nice handshake into the mirror for that map. So.
All right then. Then let's get into it. All right, by prayers. Hopefully you can see as well. We should be good to go. Now, we're going to run the gauntlet a little bit, obviously, because we have to deal with the replay viewer crashing all the time, but we'll edit around it as best we can. And hopefully, fingers crossed, the replay viewer holds strong for us. So, you get the matchup you want. Do you expect the Farrah and Tracer version of it as well as the Ball and Vienna, or is this sort of like exactly what you expect?
We were aware of it. They've actually played this. Like, when we scrimmed them in the past, they did play Farrah on this map. So we were aware it was a possibility. I did feel like at some point he was going to swap Sojourn, and he did. But we definitely had an idea that this was going to happen.
And then when we look at this matchup on the face, what are the sort of key things, your sort of win conditions for what do you guys want to do with the comp?
Well, the big key things as the Curie into the Ana version is the Ana backline. They're a lot more punishable, but they have a lot more punish on our ball specifically, especially if he takes the groggy sleep perk. Like we were seeing in scrims, like right when the perks came out, there's lots of ball. Like we were scrimming liquid, we were ball mirroring a lot. And we learned really quickly that Anas, and especially Ana comps that have like PLE DPS that can do a lot of damage, can just kill balls if they step out of line. So a lot of this matchup and a lot of this map, as you see it develop, became about which ball could adjust better to finding a balance of, getting value, actually getting dives off, but not getting punished and being hard to play through. And that kind of became the big key. Was I think Raikou did a way better job adjusting to that than Kellen did, like throughout the second half of the map especially. But.
All right, so let's get into this first fight then. I'm keeping everything I can crossed for the sake of a replay, but I think we're okay. So initially, I think if I remember right, you guys take this sort of bottom part of the map here. Yeah. Sort of lean there. Is there, obviously they're going to set their runner up on high ground, and I always worry when I see sort of this setup essentially, that we're just going to get in a situation, if you're the non-Ana team, where the Ana's really far away, and it's just almost going to be infinite opportunities for the Ana to just keep throwing the nade, ball coming through, stuff like this. So how do you deal with this kind of like, what's quite a difficult setup to get rid of the Ana?
The thing about this is for Stoj into Farrah, it's really nice, and especially Hazard into Ball, because it becomes difficult for the Ana to actually like walk up past the bridge. If she obviously can't ever drop past the bridge, or the Hazard will get to her. And so it becomes easy to kind of bait this dive and bait the frontliners out of the Ana LS and like use the pillar or use the room behind us to punish those divers. You're actually going to see that happen in the first fight. I didn't think it would be as easy as it was in this first fight. Usually it's not. But the big thing is that this half of the map, it's kind of easier for the Ana, but it becomes really difficult for the Tracer to stage. What you're going to see is like, it's not hard for Ball to get in. Ball can go anywhere he wants. But all we do is we farm a rail, and as the ball goes in, we let Chopper, we let our supports peel the ball and make sure he doesn't get any value. But we're not actually trying to kill him. If he messes up really badly, maybe we can. But Chopper's holding that rail to zone both of their DPS. And if we make sure there's no follow-up on that dive, even if there's a nade, it's really not a big deal, and we can live and we can punish the ball in the DPS.
So kind of just make sure nothing goes wrong in this area while they try and engage. And then just have Chopper essentially mark in like either this angle or this angle where you expect like the Farrah or Ana to peek or something.
Yeah, and as long as the Farrah and the Tracer don't get to follow up on the ball dive, one, it becomes really easy to just pick those two players, like the Farrah, especially if she oversteps. I think that actually is what happens this first fight, is the ball goes in, and we can use that timing to look for the DPS because we know they have to follow up on that dive. And we're able to use that to pick their Tracer on this engage. We actually look for it a couple times before it happens, but
yeah, because that's sort of a first slam. You can almost see it looks like Riker's almost like just using the wall almost to peel rather than anything else, right? Just try and block a lot of the follow up.
Yeah, and so we're able to kind of take this engage outside of the Ana LOS. Obviously, we block Kellen in the room, which is like, that's nice. That probably shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I don't
But
know how Kellen's ended up here, but yeah.
yeah, realistically, the win con here is Chopper using Rail to either force that recall or make sure we can zone both of the DPS off the dive. It's kind of the realistic scenario. It's really nice if he gets a pick. This was a nice shot and nice read. But the realistic scenario is just to keep the rest of them zoned while we peel the ball, and then eventually he'll be forced out, and we can use that timing to actually reach for something. And we can reach for the Ana. We can actually make that reach if the ball has been forced out and can't slam or boop that rotation. It'll become a lot easier. But it's nice if you can just do it this way and you can just pick the tracer and stuff the ball in the room and win the fight that way.
This is really the best case scenario almost. Yeah, everything. Yeah, notice Riker's also playing like quite a, like essentially almost a D-peaked position, so he's not really at threat of getting isolated, but there's also like he's still close enough that if anyone chooses to come too close, there's like an opportunity or something for him there as well.
Yeah, really the only threat when you're playing this way is that your tank will take too much aggro or he'll be too easy to clear. Because if we spend all that time like zoning the DPS and peeling the ball, it can be just as easy for them to do the same thing to our tank if he's in a punishable position. You actually see that happen in one of these next fights where in the early half of the map, both tanks are kind of trolling a little bit. Like this fight, we're setting up in window to defend the retake. They stage the dive. Obviously, their backline can't really do anything until Kellen and Sugarfree look for something top and kind of start to create the window. And here, it would have been easy to do the same thing if Riker had just played a little bit more passively. I think you'll see him drop a wall in to block the Ana here. Which this is the way we want to do it, right? If it's non-greedy. Although the difference, what we probably should do is Riker should back jump in this area, because if he tries to greed the window space, it becomes really easy to turn and clear him in the mid fight. Because our backline has
come
really,
back to team essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Come back to there. You kind of have to let the backline walk in a little bit, and that'll ensure that we get to actually like have his help clearing those frontliners, and we can force the recall, we can force the ball out. And it really shouldn't be that big of a deal that Farah and Ana get in because our Soj will have full rail and be able to zone them. But we greed the space a little bit, or he greeds the space a little bit, and it becomes really easy for Kellen to have a lot of uptime in this fight, and then eventually they turn and peel him with his sleep, I think.
You can kind of see him all sort of turning now, yeah.
Yeah, you can see Kellen doing the same thing to Riker that we were doing to Kellen one fight ago. And without his damage there, the Tracer and the Ball are just way too free, and then eventually he kind of feels forced to go for this because he kind of missed his timing to get out in the back jump earlier, and he ends up getting sleeped and punished here. So
it's interesting as well, because I think sometimes on paper you can look at sort of the two compositions on our screen and think, oh, in many ways Viana should be the vulnerable target and the one dying all the time, and that would imply like a more aggressive style almost from you guys in terms of like diving and hitting them. But actually you're playing almost just to control the space, actually make it so Viana can't really move, and just kind of exploit the fact that Viana is, because she's more vulnerable, it's harder for her to walk and take space and exist in areas compared to the Kiri, which can kind of just always can actually play like right up front with next to the hit scam.
Yeah, exactly. Like in this matchup, it becomes easy, at least in theory, to let our tank kind of hang the engaged threat over the Ana's head as much as possible, and then ideally, when you do that, you get the bonus of the engage, which is the Ana not being able to walk up, but you don't get the downside of potentially being punished on that. And if you're able to toe that line perfectly, like that's what makes like the really high level tanks able to just dominate these matchups on all the mobile tanks, the ball monkey. It's kind of the same fundamentals here.
All right, so yeah. Riker, big trouble.
Brutal.
And I guess at this point, it's just like that sort of 50 decision of, are we just going to, do we think we can get out, or are we just going to play to trade, essentially?
Yeah, at this point, like, we kind of have enough space to give cart. I think we try and fight a little bit, and I think we end up getting cleaned up here in the end, but it probably would have been better just to leave at that point, to be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of like a,
we're a little too
half
late.
Hesitation.
Yeah, now we're going to get caught here in this space. Actually do manage to get out barely by a miracle, but that probably shouldn't have happened, to be honest. I think Kellen just kind of let us off the hook, which is nice.
Then you guys swapped to ball as well. Does this really change what you're trying to do? Now we're in like a bit closer to a mirror.
It doesn't change it that much. I think the one big advantage of ball actually is playing into Farah becomes way easier on ball. You'll see throughout this, like, we're able to punish the Pharah being in the middle space a lot more than he's able to do on Hazard. I think the punishability of both of the characters is pretty similar. Maybe Hazard's actually a little bit harder to punish because like you can use the wall for yourself. But both tanks essentially have the same job and both have the same downside of like if you get slept, the game is going to be over for us.
Is there a reason you don't go Diva here or something instead?
I think, well, one, we're a lot more comfortable on ball. We do play a decent amount of Diva, but I think the ability to kind of stage on your own is a lot better for ball, like just because of the health packs on the map, especially like the health pack perk makes a really big difference. And it's a lot easier to kind of live in that middle space of you trying to zone their backline and them zoning your backline, and you're not really getting heals. It's just nicer to be able to do that on ball. I think Diva definitely would have worked stylistically, but I also think we were expecting them to swap Soj at some point, so we didn't want to end up like getting counter swapped in the matchup. But
we see kind of very similar situations where both balls are trying to get their own staging to set up on the back line, and both teams are just trying to not let anything go wrong for them.
Yeah, I think Riker does get a little greedy here again, and this is still kind of in the stage where both balls, to be honest, are just taking turns throwing fights, like back to back.
Drunk driving.
Like the first fight, Kellen throws the fight for us. The next fight, Riker throws the fight for them, and this goes on until eventually Riker figures it out, and then Kellen is a little bit slow to the party. But here, I think the idea is pretty similar. The only difference is that Kellen's stall was very, very not greedy. The downside of that is that Chopper, Luke, Squid do get to flip into the fight, so that could potentially be an issue, especially if we had ults. Like if we had overclock, Kellen probably would have needed to be way greedier in the window and stall us for longer. But here, Riker's already taken enough damage trying to create this window that they're going to be able to just punish him in this mid fight. Or, you know, at best for us, they're going to force him out, and flipping in is not going to mean that much when Kellen comes back and slams the high ground.
Yeah, you kind of have like a window to walk forward now since Kellen's out, but Kellen's also got the health pack very full, and then it's going to be their turn essentially where they have like full cooldowns on their ball, full HP.
Yeah, exactly. I think Riker does like he's essentially fully out at this point, and Kellen's now going to be back in for the second cycle, and like this is where it gets really difficult. Like ideally, when we're doing the full retake and Kellen's in the window, Riker should just be scouting the Ana to see if she can participate in the fight at all. Because I believe maybe we don't need to skip back just in case, but they were playing very passively to try and bait our ball in.
Well, kind of and when you here almost,
exactly.
Yes, there was like no
when
need
you bait,
to move up.
Yeah, when you bait too hard, we don't actually have to do anything. We can just let them bait us and just not do anything about it. And it would have been pretty easy to just clear Kellen or bait him to do that roll through. And if we had done that and conserved our ball HP, like that window actually would have been really significant. Being able to flip top and actually get a slam off at full health, we probably would have just killed everyone, even through the nano. But
yeah, because now their engage looks quite nicely timed, right? But nano's going to go, Kellen's coming in on full HP, and you've got like, a very difficult situation to try and survive.
Our window to flip in, like we weren't able to get any frontline timing off of it, so now we kind of have to just give it up, and it's fully their turn. Kellen's back in at full health. Like this is really just a disaster scenario.
And then it's just just get out if we can.
Yeah, at this point, look for trades, look for anything we can get. If you can get out, then get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Seeker's really looking for a player of the match here, I think. So he goes for the extra one. But
I mean, he hit some nice ones, actually.
He does. The moving barrage still catches me off guard, to be honest. Sometimes I'm spectating Pharah moving, I think I'm lagging out or something, but...
It's because the animation doesn't move, you know? So she's
just the animation is very, very static. It looks almost like April Fool's patch or something, but...
Okay, so then...
This, again, is like the same scenario where, like, Kellen is in a passive spot where he's kind of just literally hanging that engage over our heads, you know? And it's hard to walk up. The one difference here is that in this fight, even though like Riker's kind of punishable at the sleep, they're going to look to turn him. I believe Chopper actually finds timing to get involved in this fight forward. I think Riker dies for it, but he's able to use that window to find a pick on Sugarfree in this fight. And Riker does die, I believe, right here. But because Kellen was kind of so passive in his staging, and he's looking for Luke. Chopper's actually able to find a really nice headshot on Sugar Free. And it doesn't win the fight for us, I don't believe. But if Riker had been slightly less punishable on the engage, that might have won the fight for us. So you can even see, you can kind of see the inklings of where as soon as Riker adjusts his style, the map will be in our favor because our backline really knows what to do here. But
yeah, I mean, this one, I feel like it's always true on Esperanca, no matter almost what comp you play. This one where you're sort of retaking this space as the defending team is always so difficult because of that same thing of like, you know, like Chopper manages to find the pick, but it's really hard for Chopper to threaten any of like the backline or like if they ever hit scan or something on this, like really consistently.
Yeah, our ball's pathing is also pretty obvious and markable. Like he has to either come through one of the arches from the Mega, or he has to wrap all the way around. And like either one of those things, it's really easy for the Lucio to kind of solo stuff. Or if he goes all the way around, it's easy for them to just find that and just go past him and just kill our backline. Yeah. So.
All right. So Luke's gonna get caught as well. Kitsune rush here to try and turn.
Yeah, I think this is mostly just to try and live. We know that we're coming back soon, and we really like getting snowballed past this corner. Kind of makes the map way harder to win. I wish we could have lived without the Curial, obviously, but I honestly don't mind it that much. Like almost any time. Now this kind of anecdotally. I don't have any science to support this, but anytime I've seen the bot get like to that bus, the map is over. Like it's so difficult because like once you push. It's not that difficult to push to the enemy checkpoint and to the choke, but pushing past that choke on their side is really difficult if a team has lead and they can just afford to play that choke in like the back high ground forever. So I think it really is necessary to keep the choke stuffed here, even at the expense of that ult. But
it's funny you say that actually, because I remember when we signed Sauna on London Spitfire, he was telling us about when he was on Florida Mayhem, and I think it was Esperanca was like one of the newer maps at the time. And it was a hard and fast rule on Florida Mayhem. You never let it get past 18 meters or you've lost, like no matter what.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I don't know. Maybe there's not science.
That might be around the 80 meter mark around there.
It feels like a few people have come to the same conclusion that you don't want to let it get past the bus. So it feels like, maybe there's something in it.
So we are actually able to catch CJ out. I don't remember how he ended up on the low ground.
It feels a little bit no man's land here.
Yeah.
I guess maybe wanting to chase
because like off.
Yeah,
but skipping might be a little dangerous. But this was a nice little donation pick from CJ here to retake. I think otherwise this retake actually would have been really hard and to beat Mine's pulse in the rotate too, especially because we just had to use that Curial.
You get to then just take all of this space for relatively free as well, which was like the hardest part of the map as well.
Yeah, this is really the best place to be donated a free pick, to be honest. Like,
because then you're going to get basically the inverse situation where you guys can sit on the high ground.
Yeah, we want to take bridge here. If we can get checkpoint like off of this fight, it would be a really big deal for us. I do think their setup is good enough, especially that small soft engage there, to get CJ back into a decent position where he's not having to play like their side of the map. And so it actually ends up pretty decent for them. Obviously, they gave up like one of the most impressive retakes, but they end up in a good position to still win the fight. And I think they do win this fight. I believe we start with overclock and they have a really nice beat push. And CJ manages to find a really nice flank past our ball. Yeah, so like we start with OC here. Obviously, like it's just an easy ult to start the fight with. We plan to force their B, and then we're gonna second beat hopefully. Really, the only way to lose this fight is if their backline gets big value. So either Seeker or Ana. And we do a really good job of marking Seeker. Before this fight, we hit like a body shot rail on him, which I think was the trigger for the overclock. So now he's zoned. We can start pressuring Lucio.
He's like really low underneath the B.
Yeah. But this was a really good play from CJ, actually, like maybe to equalize the last fight. He kind of locked in. And he manages to get completely past our ball, but Riker is trying to block him there. And either he's too fast or he's too slippery or something. And he manages to get really active in this fight, and we can't trade him.
Yeah. It's like an anti-timing, essentially. Yeah, like he's gone to
mark the
angle,
because of this,
CJ just slipped through.
Yeah, exactly. Because of this, he's super active, and Riker really is looking for him. And I think he doesn't know he's gotten past him. And so Riker really ends up doing nothing in this fight, and CJ ends up doing everything. And so even though we're 2 ults to 1, they end up with a really, really good position to win this fight.
Yeah, you can see Riker's essentially looking for someone who's not there anymore. Meanwhile, like,
Yeah,
got, like the exact slam you want, right? Like straight on top of the overclock and
yeah, exactly.
And,
Like he ends up like looking for Seeker and zoning him, but Seeker was already zoned at the start of the fight, and he finds his way back in anyways. So they end up getting past Riker entirely, which is like if you can do that on Ana, it's essentially a free fight win. To be honest, like the Ana will just do so much from that angle.
Well, yeah, everything we talked about earlier in the map, just about how difficult it is for Ana to get into these positions all of a sudden. If they do something like this, if they're actually sort of broken or avoided the main downside of the hero in something like these retake situations.
I mean, usually you have to take your Lucio with you to do that, but somehow he just did it on his own.
He didn't get the beat either. Yes, it's like walked away.
Yeah,
from
it's honestly surprising he managed to pull all that off. But I guess it's just the luck you get from getting first pick. They give it back to you in the karma.
And now, very familiar looking situation on Esperanca. Same setup.
Yeah, this was the retake fight, I believe, where you can noticeably see Riker's style start to adjust, where Kellen is still struggling. Like the timing obviously is really similar, where it's like a 4-on-1 type situation for both. But we're able to force Kellen out, and our backline is able to find some really early timing, if I'm remembering the fight correctly. Where Kellen slams We All Live, but Riker is really not greeting the position. Okay, actually, never mind. I'm remembering this fight. Yeah. He gets punished. I'm thinking of the next fight.
One more fight to figure it out. Yeah.
One more fight. I think maybe that was the turning point. I actually remember the comms now that I'm thinking about it, where he maybe dropped an expletive in that fight. And I think in his mind, mentally, he was like, all right, I'm never letting that happen again.
Yeah. Because I presume CJ's on the groggy perk as well. So it's like,
yeah, and it's just so brutal. Like,
caught.
Yeah. But we're able to keep decent position here, which is really nice. Like, again, not getting snowballed past this bus part, really making sure. And Riker's back in time. So this is the fight I'm thinking of. It's a really similar position. Where you can see, instead of trying to full wrap, he just kind of threatens them into this position. He's even using mines to do it. And even though he does get slept, like our backline's able to find really nice timing because of the way we played through Kel in this fight. And they're able to really get involved and quickly amp through to the right side. And Seeker's able to trade a couple with Barrage this fight, but we're able to find the picks. Like Chopper gets a lot of value in this fight, I think. Where Riker's kind of squeezed them into the pinch without getting punished, and the timing's just really nice here.
Yeah, and it's really important to get the timing right as well, I think, in terms of like clearing Kellen, then doing this rotate. Because if you just try and walk on his side without relieving any pressure first, it's so easy for their Farah, so easy for their bull just to destroy you as you try and come like up this stairwell.
Yeah, I mean the really nice thing too is it might have been by accident too because Riker was dead, so he couldn't go early. But a really easy trick to make sure you get forced out after the enemy ball is just to go in after him. And there's really not that big of a threat of the ball engage on our side down there. Like it's really difficult for the Farah and the Ana to follow up from that long of a range. So if we can just bait him to slam, which is pretty easy to do to Kellen, and honestly to most of the balls in the region, we can bait him in, force him out, and then Riker can time off that, and the whole thing becomes a lot easier. Because there's just no way for them to force him out when he's in the spawn and he's coming back. But
we used to use like a really similar principle on like London as well, where it would be, especially in like Winston mirrors, if we were in control of everything, we had the space we wanted, we had like, or we were defending map control, we would always talk about like second tempo in terms of like, oh, Winston doesn't need to do anything until their Winston does something type thing. I think like really useful in terms of like not, you see it so often, right? When it's the classic one shift, one die in some situations where it's just like the desire to do something is too great when actually a lot of the time in these matchups, even though like dive matchups, you can actually just win by controlling the area a little bit more. Maybe a bit of fortune as well that Sugar Free misses his pulse bomb or doesn't stick it on, but
yeah, that actually might have made a difference later in this fight, although I'm not sure. I believe
probably lives anyway. He's like probably like 1 HP, but maybe just about lives.
This fight got pretty messy, I think.
Yeah.
Like we get top, I think Chopper gets a pick, Seeker trades a couple out, and we trade him for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chopper gets a pick on CJ, and then I think Seeker gets one more, and we kill Seeker for it.
Yeah, Sugarfig goes into the mine as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Seeker ends up getting Luke, and then Seeker ends up getting Chopper, and we get Seeker for it. So, yeah, this fight gets pretty messy, but to be honest, if both teams are playing pretty well, a messy fight is the best you can hope for on your retake, where you're starting kind of with none of the space.
Exactly, yeah. Like that type of fight in this situation is probably, yeah, really happy with it.
Yeah. And then I think this kind of became the real turning point here, where after that one like sleep where he's just slept in the back of the map and is just turned and killed before anything happens, like he really adjusts his playstyle. And now you can see, instead of like trying to wrap the Ana, shoot the Ana, like threaten the engage that way, he's kind of playing more like we were trying to on Hazard in the first place, where he's kind of just threatening and blocking the Ana, but he's still in a position to punish both DPS and to turn on the ball, which ends up becoming a really big factor. Like in 2 of these next fights, I think the big win con is like zoning the Ana and then using our timing to punish the Pharah. Because the Pharah has to walk up, obviously, or she can't do anything. And using our ball and our Sojourn and our Tracer too, if need be, it becomes really easy to catch her out in the middle. I don't remember exactly what happens this fight, but I know 2 of the remaining fights we win through killing Seeker with that kind of timing.
Yeah, it's like a good recognition as well. Now we kind of talked about it on one of your retakes as well, but like if we look at it from like CJ's point of view, it's like, what's the threat here as this Kellen Slam comes in, you know? Like it's really hard for him to do anything, so it's like sort of not the person you need to worry about as much.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he wants to bait in the back of the map, just let him bait, and then we can punish their front line harder for their backline not being involved. And you can see Kellen, we're able to do 400 or 500 damage to him before this fight even starts. Now this is a little bit of him just, he just grappled over all 5 of us just to have some fun. But there is a possibility, like if we were playing the way we were before, we might have got punished during this same timing. And Riker being literally full health means we're going to be able to fully utilize this window that we've created now.
It's like your turn to push now, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And so this fight is the perfect scenario. Seeker's nanoed, and they have to try to force this fight now from their position because we played the neutral so well that they have to use an ult to even recover. Even with the forcing the nano, it's not enough. We get the pulse onto CJ, and I think Seeker gets 1 or 2, but we trade him in because this is a really, really forceful engage from Seeker. Like his side of the map, he's just shifting in through the open, and we trade him for this.
Well, even if obviously CJ can't help because he's pulse bombed anyway, but even if he wasn't pulse bombed, I think it's really hard for him to actually go follow up and help Seeker all that much at all anyway.
Yeah, like this is a really uncomfortable position
to deal with him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. CJ would for sure get traded on a walk up if he tried to do anything here. So this fight's a little messy, but to be honest, 0 ults for what could be 3 ults. Like again, a messy fight is kind of the best we can hope for. And our cleanup ends up being pretty good, especially because Kiri, like one of the biggest advantages is that our cleanup fights, messy fights will be good for us as we get back a lot faster. That's pretty significant in this matchup.
Yeah, it felt like it was like a 3v3, and then you guys, just because Riker was on point, but then came back, and it feels like you were able to get your 3 on the same page in terms of what they're doing, whereas like Bliss just ends up a little bit slow, while everyone else is trying to back up from SSG as well. So just like a little bit quicker / better decision making in the like 3v3 messy situations.
Yeah, you can see again, like we really dial the matchup into like hard locking down Kellen. And if you watch this fight, actually, this is the fight where like it becomes really, really obvious that there's a difference in adaptation between the 2 tanks. Where Riker, if you pause here, the staging for that fight, he's kind of just like hanging the engage over their heads. But where you see Kellen was permanently kind of hanging that staging, and when we were baiting him, he really didn't know what to do besides slam on us. Riker is really willing to zone them, and if they want to bait, he gives it up, and we turn around and peel the people in our space, and we are just able to full everybody kill Kellen here in this space. It's really, really brutal. And Riker takes no punishment at all.
It's always
like
a big...
I think
oh, go on, sorry.
We're able to just like just with gun damage, I don't even use any ults or CDs. Like everybody just 100 to 0s Kellen. And this like being willing to not let the backline bait you into that waiting game is a really big difference between the tanks. Like Kellen literally just grapples onto that choke and then he just holds it until they walk up. And if they don't walk up, he never does anything or gets any value.
I feel like it's a really important thing, almost in any Overwatch matchup, but I think it's like more demonstrable a lot of the times in Dive in reading what the other team is trying to do and what the other team's intentions are. If they're just baiting, don't get baited. If they're actually trying to do something, make sure you actually punish them for it and everything like that. And I feel like here you guys just have the right read, and Kellen's just going to get caught in main.
Yeah. Like his ability to read the situation becomes a lot better, and Riker has gotten out of the staging of these two fights with almost no damage. Like I think the last fight was actually no damage. This fight's less than 100 of his armor is taken off, and this is such a big difference. We probably shouldn't have won the fight just by killing Kellen. Realistically, the scenario is we force Kellen out. He has to go grab that mega or something. And then either Rocket goes and chases him for the kill, like on their side of the map or something, or we're able to use that window to, get the cap and chase their backline. But
well, yeah, let's say Kellen gets out here or something or survives. Even then, there's even a chance for you to one really heavily threaten cap, like bully Sugar Free off it, or if you then just have to take the ult trade, you could probably even do something not too dissimilar to before, where it was like start with overclock, hopefully force for beat, and then Kitsune rush back or something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because once Riker leaves and he's willing to just let the backline bait in their space, they feel a lot of pressure to walk up and help Kellen, because it becomes obvious that if our tank is leaving, our plan is to peel their front line. And if they do walk up here, even if Kellen gets out, you can see the walked up position CJ's in. We would be able to follow up on this with a rush or an overclock. It'd be pretty easy to clean up this fight, even if Kellen didn't die. But
so yeah, then I guess we're going to see Sugar Free get forced out.
Yeah, all that's left now to do is double up on the tray.
Yeah, dies for it as well.
Yeah. And now this next fight is actually a really good example too, where Kellen tries to stop wrapping around. And I think if you pause here, Kellen has kind of realized that wrapping entirely around is really difficult to do, and he's not going to be able to get any value. So he tries a different approach of like the staging that we're doing, where he's just kind of trying to stage and catch people in the middle, left out. The problem is he just grapples onto that, telephone booth for no reason in front of 5 of us. It was the one right there out of spawn. Like he already grappled onto it. So right now he has no grapple. And so Chopper says, wait, Kellen has no grapple. We just pop overclock and we kill everybody. And I think Kellen is like, by now he's really selling the series. And he literally can't do anything. He's 2 seconds off grapple. And Chopper, really good on Chopper here for recognizing this. Like this is sometimes something we struggle with. Maybe, as a region, we all struggle with this a little bit more than Korea does. But this timing is like, this is a very, very Korean thing to do, is like one CD has been used on the enemy team. Let's ult immediately and go kill everybody. And so this is really great.
Yeah, I think as well, because we talked about it before, like the importance of like, oh, you've cleared Kellen, now we can push. This is a version of that as well. He's essentially cleared himself by wasting his cooldown.
Yeah.
And now just a chance to walk forward, be very aggressive with it, and then like Chopper hits for shot.
Yeah, he hits another one too, I think, here.
Oh, he gets booped in.
Yeah. On CJ before the beat goes off.
Yeah.
Maybe it's CJ after the beat.
Yeah, and then like by the time Kellen is back in, you guys.
Yeah, by the time he's back in, it's too late. I think Sugar Free even lands a really nice pulse, and it's still not enough. Like the position we have is just way too much. CJ and Bliss are definitely going to get traded out here, where Squid is non-tradable this whole fight, and so even if Chopper dies, it's just not going to become winnable for them.
Yeah. Did you mean to double support ult here as well? You like? Or did you
I don't think we did.
Beats?
I think we were just planning to match beats. I guess it didn't end us hurting that much in the long run, but ideally you would want to get away with just one of the support ults. Probably the beat is the more obvious one here.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's one of those where it's like it's not too bad because this is essentially your fight for lead as well. So if there's a time to overspend, this is the time to overspend.
Yeah, I would rather use both of them than neither of them in this fight. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even hitting the nice pulse is like, it's just not enough they commit pulse and mines to this to try and salvage it, but the position is just too good from the initial engage.
Well, you see it as well. You talk about how like maybe SSG would want the fight set up in terms of it. They don't want a situation where the fight is happening like directly in front of CJ and everyone is just on top of each other. They want situations like they had when CJ did the wraparound, like up top through the corridor, where he can just sort of sit on a nice spot, use his cooldowns, hit something, get value, rather than like in the brawl like the Kiri wants to be.
Yeah, it becomes really difficult for him to do anything, especially in these fights where like we have beat. Maybe some of the fights like that are more neutral, like he can do this kind of thing, and if we're willing to slide in for that, maybe he gets a really strong nade, forces our Suzu, like their trade power becomes really strong. But in this type of fight, the beat is just going to cover all of that up, and he's really not going to be able to do anything.
So then, go back and get Robot as well, because Kellen was trying to steal that. Just about to get Luke out of everything.
Yeah,
Steal the lead.
We all end up getting traded out of here, but it's worth it to get the lead here. We're just kind of stalling to get the cart progress.
And now this also, you've got the lead, but it's a very precarious lead.
Yeah, it's very small, but I think at this point we felt really good because Riker knew he had a handle on the matchup, and like going forward, like we gained a lot of confidence at that point in this map.
The style you were describing as well is it's way easier to play that style when you have lead in push.
Yes, it is because
when you're chasing the game.
Having a little bit more of a cushion to be able to like let your frontline give some space is really, really nice. Like being forced to touch point makes the style really, really difficult. Because if you have to have your frontliners touch point, obviously it becomes incredibly easy to play through them. Just let Seeker and sugar-free Kellen just triple up on point. Becomes really hard. So that's really, really nice. Even though it's a small lead, it's a really big playstyle advantage.
And now here, you go for like a forward hold. Forward hold's not quite the right word, but you're choosing this position rather than the low ground position as well because you have time for it too.
Yeah, we do. And also, so this is again where like the staging between the balls is a really obvious difference. Riker is staging just kind of to scout. They've also swapped to Kiri at this point, is I think after that last fight, CJ feels like he's just going to die too much on Ana. And so Riker is just kind of using this more passive staging and scouting, and he sees here Seeker's pretty zoned. Both supports are pretty not active, and so he's just willing to let them bait if they want to bait and understand the rest of us, especially Rocket, in really good position here. One thing I think Rocket actually really does well, I haven't talked about it much this map, but Rocket's understanding of when he needs to set up flexibly to be ready to peel that ball engage gives us the damage we need. That's the difference between forcing Kellen out and killing him on these engages. And not just setting up, like a lot of tracers I watch in this dive would be either setting up with my ball here top right or be setting up top left to try and hit backline.
Yeah,
exactly. And that would
try and do something like extra.
Yeah, exactly. And that would really be jumping the gun. One, Sugar Free would be able to get in here, which would make this a lot different. But Rocket's just incredibly flexible position, able to kind of hold their backline with Riker, and understanding that his ability to turn Kellen is a really big difference maker. And Kellen jumps the gun on the staging here, and we're able to just use that timing to force him out. And I think in this we're gonna punish Seeker with the slam, but this is a really great example of the difference in ball staging. Kellen takes 500 damage instantly here. Like
uses all of his cooldowns as well. And imagine if we get a Riker's POV, he's actually just 60 damage and got everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and so this is the ideal scenario. Like. Whoever's left over in this space once Kellen leaves is going to get punished, whether that's their tracer or the supports or the Pharah. We basically have the ability to kill anybody we want here. I think because it's the barrage, we're like really watching the barrage hard, and so extra shutting down the Pharah. But if not, maybe the tracer's like the more priority threat if she still exists in our space. But to be honest, we kind of have our pick of whatever we want to do here.
Well, yeah. Because you've already you win the cooldown trade essentially, then you just get to walk forward and just see what it looks like the best opportunity to go forward. Because like in this situation, Kellen's taken so much damage that Rocket's even actually just going to blink and go for the kill as well.
Yeah, I mean, he thinks he's able to kill, and then he's making both supports peel, I think, in this fight. Like Rocket's 1v3, it's like that's such big value because now neither support's going to be able to catch up to Seeker in time when we punish him, and Seeker's going to get cut out for this.
Yeah, then all of a sudden, you can just see, again, now you get your chance to walk forward, eyes on the barrage, and then once you have cooldown advantage, normally if you start walking forward, something will just present itself in terms of a killable person, a killable target.
Yeah, exactly. And Kellen's now coming back, but it's too late. Like,
yeah. And then should just be able to get, hopefully, a lot of the cleanup here, I think.
Yeah, I think we get most of it here. I think we actually kill Kellen again, which probably shouldn't happen. Yeah, he.
What's
Oh,
he
okay.
doing?
There's also an
What's he
interesting.
doing?
So Riker was trying to grapple one clip Seeker, and
Hmm.
Seeker, I guess, decided to barrage him. I think this was where he wanted to swap.
Yeah, so it's
I
just
think they
like,
both died for
yeah.
this, but this was pretty interesting. Yeah, then I'm pretty sure they swapped Sojourn right after this.
I think so. Yeah.
And we're able to just kind of hold this position. Yeah, they do. And from here on out, it's basically the same story of the frontline staging. Yeah, like you're gonna watch Kellen like really not able to figure out exactly what's going wrong in the matchup. Like here, he's slamming top really aggressively, and we're just gonna chunk so much of his health off for this slam.
How would you take it as well? Because we talk a lot about the baiting style, right? But if we look at it from SSG's perspective, now they need to win a fight, right? They have to. They can't just sort of sit and wait for Riker to make a mistake. And maybe if Riker's also not falling for the bait anymore, the onus is on them to go do something. So could quite easily, or sure, it will be a situation you come in sometimes. How would you approach this situation then if you were the retaking team and you were sort of like, well, we need to go win the fight. We can't just sort of keep playing slow for forever.
Yeah, the default is kind of just to let your backline play as 3. And this is where I would kind of try to let my ball maybe flip through cart, maybe double up on the cart. Because the only 2 ways to win this fight really are to double up on cart, kind of try to pull that tracer. And then the scenario is either you can force the tracer off cart, and then that's, obviously that's just a win. You get to take cart, and everybody has to turn for you. Or the more realistic scenario is like people are going to start turning to help the tracer. Either the Soj is going to turn, and then my Soj becomes more free, hopefully, to try and force out the ball, or maybe even slide top if we have good ults for it. Or the ball will have to peel cart, and then we can actually start to walk out. But you kind of have to make space either through cart or some comps, like you'd be able to 5-man wrap through the top. Like if they had the lead here and they were on the retake, they'd be able to do that. Without lead, it's difficult because if they do that, we can just push cart all the way and then they have to go touch it and it becomes really difficult again. But really, like Kellen is just really jumping the gun here on this, like way too aggressive.
I guess what you could also do as well is you could just your baits just start to become more aggressive essentially. So rather than maybe just sort of playing like a passive angle like here, hoping to try and get the engage, you start almost essentially just seeing how much you can get away with essentially before you try and get the bait the ball in, and then just try and peel it.
Yeah, like what you would want to do is time your bait a little bit differently so that instead of using your front line's window, like your slam or your roll or whatever, for your backline to peak, you do it the other way around, where your backline starts the bait by peaking, and then as they start to peak your backline, then you do the slam, and hopefully you could get like a slam rail combo or something up on the bridge.
So I guess
Liquid actually is really good at that piece of micro. That's basically all they play for in their ball comps from what I watch them do. But yeah, like you're saying, like you need that way more aggressive Sojourn angle, and then maybe your ball would actually be able to get something off.
That's
of this.
That's when you look for the type of slam Kellen's going for now, essentially.
Yeah.
Alright, so Feeler successfully again. Riker gets cleared a little bit as well.
Yeah. But it's nothing we're not going to be able to deal with pretty easily. And now Kellen's going for this greedy staging again. A little bit less greedy than last time, but
yeah, you can see that they're now sort of trying to force it now, like force the rotation through essentially a little bit more. Yeah,
now their backline is doing a decent job of adapting to this, but Riker, because of the way how well he played the staging in the first fight, like it's kind of the same thing as the arches, where he was holding the arches until they, it was obvious they were really baiting and staying in there. And he's like, well, if you guys aren't going to come out, I'm not going to waste my time here. He comes back, gets full healed, and then when they do come out, he's able to full HP hit this, and he can't be punished
as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really nice beat turn here, and this is just exactly what I want. Like him being full health and non-punishable means he can just hold so much space. We can kill this Lucio. Just a really nice beat cleans this fight up for us.
And then get a trade, but win him a fight.
Yeah.
Was there a particular choice here to go? Because obviously it was actually a situation where both support ults are up for both teams. They went with Kitsune Rush first to try and take the space. You responded with Beat. Is there a reason you did it in this order? Is there a way you always try and do it? Or is it just kind of...
I think generally, if we're going to allow them to hit us, going with Beat is a little bit better of an option. Just because trying to respond to a hit with Rush like usually gets your TP and your Suzu forced uncomfortably. And it can kind of make those fights weird. Whereas like if you're going first, Rush is a lot better of an ult to use on your tempo. But there's kind of situations like I think a Rush would have been fine here, to be honest. Like this one's kind of like not as obvious. You kind of just have to pick one and make sure you don't stack them in this kind of situation. But for example, like this fight around the corner, it would have been a really obvious like start with Rush type of fight. Yeah. Just because our tempo, getting to swing around that corner, like that really long sight line, it would have been really nice. But
all right, then chance to get the lead, maybe over 8 centimeters as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Kellen again, like he has to kind of go for the touch, but this window is like gonna make it really difficult, and they're just not able to find a way to get into this fight. Like Kellen here throws the final map he's gonna throw of the series by pathing fully behind us and then slamming 5-man top and dying with mines, which brought a tear to my eye when I saw this. Because I was actually a little bit worried about this fight. Like mines in B on the retake, like it's definitely favored for us, but we would have to play it well. And then he just paths behind through 5 of us, takes 600 damage, and slams top and dies with mines. And so this is
because also what happens then as well, if they win this fight and the fight goes over to, you know, like basically the lead fight on your side, all of a sudden all the things you want to do in terms of like trying to play for your ball to get the later engage and stuff become harder because Ryko will have to do what Kellen did initially and touch exactly. Point. And then all of a sudden it's more liable. You lose that HP, you have to use cooldowns you don't want to use. And that's just the power of, I guess, like, same on any map, but particularly on push, is the power of objective to force them to take a step. Yeah, because I think when I was watching this live, we were on Kellen's POV as well, and as soon as he pressed the slam button, it was like,
it's brutal from his POV, I'll be honest. Yeah, it's
gone.
It's he didn't even mind either. He just sent it without the like.
And yeah, like particularly brutal in slow motion as well, or in like stop start, because as well you can see it's just like there's just no hope for them to like find a kill, right? Like similar to like a lot of the engages I guess we saw from both teams at the start, but also compared to like when you saw some of your engages here, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity for Rocket. Or how many times was like Chopper actually able to get the kill right afterwards or something? It's just like no chance for Seeker to do the same here.
Yeah, I mean it's a really big difference too, because the Tracer and the Soj, like those are really huge carry roles, and Seeker and Trigger Free, like those are maybe their 2 best heroes too. Like if we let them be too active, it's gonna get uncomfortable for us. You know, against any top team too. Like all the top teams have really good Tracers and really good Sojourns. So this playstyle is really incredibly important for the ball matchup. But yeah, this last fight was a really nice gift.
Yeah, from
Kellen
here it's actually just because you can see as well, like everyone on time was kind of realize it at the same time. It's like all of a sudden, rather than having to play in this fight and trying to just play it best, we can just this is our moment to just win the map. We can win right now. Let's start.
Yeah, investing. We can just force card, get Trigger Free off, and the ults will become really easy. We can just drop on him here, even with Chopper. I think he Ajaxes the pulse, which is like, this is honestly a little bit risky, but yeah.
But yeah, then all of a sudden, no ball, you just see like the extremity of the situation. Their backline is getting zoned, and then again, similar situation, Chopper's able to just kind of go do what he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just over. All right, then. So, obviously, we looked at one of the series where we saw you guys adapt midway through, find some fixes to the problems you hit. Then you get taken to Dorado next map, and unfortunately, the ability to ban Winston doesn't exist forever. And always a tough matchup when you play SSG against that one. Looking back on the series now, where do you think what was the sort of like big picture? What's the sort of biggest things to fix for you guys going into playoffs?
Well, I think, first of all, every team loves Dorado. So we either need to get away with not using our monkey band somewhere else, which I think we'll be able to do. we're still gonna have to play the Monkey matchup probably, because what these teams are gonna do is they're gonna protect ban for Monkey, because none of the other teams have an off tank player, or the top teams at least, which is nice. So if they have to use that protect ban on tank, it becomes easier to maybe use some kind of support ban between Ana or Brig or something to make the matchup a little more favorable for us. But at some point, I have a feeling we're gonna have to win like an honest Ana Brig Monkey dive mirror to be one of these teams, and so that matchup and that map specifically is a big focus for us. But I think if we had got to replay the series, we probably wouldn't have to use our Monkey ban on Espa. We'd be able to actually play our side of the matchup into that. I think even now, maybe even like right after the match, like after that map, we would have been able to do it. It was just coming in, them playing Monkey as much as they did, like on Nepal, really blindsided us. Especially they swapped it like on Sanctum, Nepal Sanctum. We were winning that map, and then they swapped Monkey, and we were really late to adapt to that. And I think if we had been able to adapt to that quicker, we would probably take Nepal. Hopefully, we'd get to save our Monkey ban. It would have been a way different series. But
you see it quite a lot as well, kind of these, because in EMEA, you see lots of teams playing some of these greedier comps as well, like greedier backline, slower comps. But some of it is a gambit that teams don't have this dive comp or this good Winston player they can just swap to in these situations. Whereas in North America, you almost have the opposite problem where everyone is can't wait to get on Winston if they get a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think all of the top 4 teams are very willing to play it. I think 2 of them, I'm not sure about Nightmare anymore. They used to do it a lot, but Liquid and SSG especially are very, very confident in that. And they're going to wait till the end of a series every time. They're going to drag out all your important bans, and they're going to bet the house on map 5 on a dive bear. So.
Yeah, no, it seems like, especially the map pool, there's always like a Dorado or a Route 66 or even a Numbani or something, or even a Blizzard World. There's just like all these different ones you can get taken to just to put yourself in that last awkward position.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Cap. I appreciate you taking the time and talking us through that one. Obviously, we'll see you guys in action next weekend for playoffs. Best of luck to you and the team. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.